Hey, how's it going, guys? Coldmush back at it with an $800 gaming PC. This is a great build if you're looking to run games at 1080p, 60 frames per second, max settings in most cases. Some games you will have to tweak the settings a little bit, but pretty much for every game you're looking at 60 frames per second, 1080p at really high to max settings. So with that being said, let's get right into this build. Starting things off with the CPU, I went with the Intel Core i5-4440 3.1 GHz quad-core CPU. Now this is a Core i5, but it's not overclockable. It's not too big of a deal since it does come stock clocked at 3.1 GHz, which is still fairly good. This is a great CPU for gaming, and it can do things like video editing, rendering, and live streaming, but at gaming, this thing's an absolute beast for the price. At $174, you really can't go wrong with this CPU. Has great performance in games, and that's primarily the focus of this build, was to run games at 1080p, 60 frames per second, at really high settings, and this CPU definitely gets the job done at a relatively cheap price. For the motherboard, I went with the ASRock H97 Pro 4 ATX LG1150 motherboard. Now, this is H97, so no overclocking, but of course, the CPU can't overclock at all, so that's not a problem anyway. This motherboard is $84. It has all the features you want. You know, you got 4 RAM slots. Unfortunately, you can't go for a Crossfire or SLI configuration, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal, especially because we got a kick-ass GPU in this build anyway, so that should be just fine. And this motherboard, it's fairly cheap, but it's gonna get the job done, and it lets you save some money, and you can put that towards the crux of a gaming build in your video card. For the RAM, I went with G.Skill RipjawsX series 8GB, two 4GB sticks running at 1600 MHz. It's 8GB of RAM, not much more to say. $65, a pretty cheap price for 8GB of RAM. Definitely you want to get at least 8. You can go for 12 to 16 in this build, but no point in going for that now. If, say, in 12 months, 16 months, 24 months, you want to do that upgrade, the motherboard will support it, so that upgradability option is open. But right now, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. This 8GB kit for $65 is definitely a good value. For storage, I went with the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB 3.5-inch 7200 RPM internal hard drive. This is only $45 right now. Like, what? That's a great price for a terabyte of storage. If you guys want, you can even pick up 2 of them. I mean, a terabyte's pretty solid these days, but games coming out like GTA are like 60 gigabytes. So I've noticed that more and more, a terabyte's becoming kind of limiting, but it's still decent amount of space for a lot of people, especially if you're the kind of guy that downloads, you know, 10 games at a time, but then you pick and choose and you delete a lot of them, then you should be fine. And for $45, you can just buy more drives later on. I mean, this is so cheap for a crazy amount of storage. No SSD in this build. The mass storage of the terabyte just made a lot more sense. I mean, you could get a 120 gigabyte SSD for around this price, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Most of you guys are going to be using more than 120 gigabytes. That's an upgrade you can get later on down the line, and with SSD prices just falling lower and lower every year, it just makes a lot more sense to get that in 12 months, 24 months, even 36 months down the line. For the video card, went with the MSI GeForce GTX 970 4GB video card, 4GB in quotes. Obviously, most of you guys know it's 3.5 gigabytes, but I digress. We're not going to get into that in this video. $310 for this awesome GPU. 1080p gaming, no problem on this graphics card. You can max out pretty much any game, whether it be Mordor, GTA 5, Dying Light, Battlefield Hardline, Witcher 3. You can max out all those games 60 frames per second at 1080p. You can even play at 1440p as well if you guys are into that. If you want to play at a higher resolution like that, you can do that as well with this video card. And for $310, this is just an absolute killer of a GPU at this price range. At 1080p, there's no GPU at this price range that matches up to the 970. Just a great graphics card. This one from MSI, you can also do some overclocking on it. So if you want to get more performance out of it, you can do that as well. And to fit a GTX 970 in an $800 build, that's really great. I mean, a GTX 970 is $300, so that used a big chunk of our budget. But hey, it's a great GPU and it's definitely worth it. For the power supply, I went with the EVGA SuperNOVANEK 750W 80+ bronze certified semi-modular power supply. Now, this power supply is probably a little overkill. You could even get away with a 600W power supply and you'll be absolutely fine. But this 750W was $70 and it's semi-modular, so that's going to help out with cable management. It's just a decent power supply. 750W is definitely more than you need, but hey, it's only $70 and it's semi-modular, so cable management is going to be a breeze with this thing. So I figured just get that. If you guys want, you can pick up like a 600W EVGA power supply and that's like $20 to $30 cheaper. It's up to you. The budget could afford this power supply, so I just went with this instead. And it is modular, so like I said, cable management is going to be a breeze with this thing. For the case, I went with the Cooler Master Half 912 ATX mid-tower case for $50. This is a really solid case. It's definitely not too expensive, and it's kind of basic on the exterior, but the interior is really solid. A lot of room for upgradability options, airflow, and ventilation, so just a great case. A lot of fans on this case as well. Just a fairly solid case from Cooler Master, and Cooler Master has a great line of cases, and the Half 912 is definitely one of the best ones that they have. I actually have this case myself, and it works great with my 970, so $50 for this case is definitely a solid price. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Remember to hit that subscribe button, like this video, comment down below with your requests for future videos. I read every single comment, so, you know, if you have a request for a future video, just leave it down below and I will read it. Alright, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.